Hello there. What is going on, everyone? Today we're going to be talking about the Onagers for Star Wars Armada, the Onager class Star Destroyer, as well as the Onager class Test Bed, the bane of existence to many. Very powerful siege craft designed to penetrate the nigh impenetrable, and from a safe distance at that. Now, these ships were subject of a major price hike, a points increase for the game's points, which is meant to be a nerf by cost, and many think it is long overdue, and it's a very welcome change to some. Some also have raised some eyebrows and thought maybe in some cases that these were over increased with their points. We're going to talk about this today. I'll break down what was changed, the impact of the game, as well as my thoughts on if I think it was enough or not enough. We'll go through all of that and kind of run down even like a sample list. So, if you guys are new here to the channel, little admin stuff real quick. We're doing a big giveaway right now for a $100 Amazon gift card. All you have to do to enter to win that is be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos. It's as simple as that. That's running through Halloween. I typically announce winners towards the end of my videos, so make sure you are watching all the way to the end. And you know, it's fun. I'd love to have you guys stick around. We talk a lot of Star Wars, a lot of tabletop gaming, games like Star Wars Legion, Star Wars Armada, Star Wars Shatterpoint, Star Wars X-Wing, sometimes even board games as well, and other Star Wars stuff and other sci-fi stuff. We're kind of all over it. But if you like Star Wars, if you like tabletop gaming, you like sci-fi, you're probably in the right place. So we'd love to have you guys stick around. Plus, we got other links in the video description below, like our Discord. Love to have you guys join, keep the discussion going. We talk about games like Armada. We share lists. Sometimes there's painting competitions. Need to do another one of those soon. So we're going to be kicking one off pretty soon. So stay tuned for that. So with all that being said, let's jump into the changes. So the Onager class Star Destroyer is now 120 points. Now, this is one of those eyebrow-raising changes where some people thought, well, the Star Destroyer wasn't necessarily the problem, but it's still got a 10-point price hike, whereas the Onager class Test Bed got a 20-point price hike, going up from 96 all the way up to 116. And look, a lot of people are happy about these changes, and I'm glad that very glad that AMG is listening and willing to make some changes, and so it came in at a very unexpected time as well. So this is very interesting. But I think one of the big problems with the Onager is that you were able to run a couple of test beds, especially with the orbital bombardment particle cannons, and shoot from like extremely long range, and do a lot of damage. Now let's take the test bed, for example, which I think is definitely the worst offender here. The Onager class test bed has been pretty much universally been called for a points increase. It was only 96 points, still has 10 hull, 5 shields in the front, built-in brace, redirect, and salvo. Can go speed 3. It has some good upgrades that kind of allow it to do lots of very nasty things. And frankly, it's able to really punish people without any risk of retribution. And I think it's still able to do that, but it's going to cost you a lot more now. It was commonly seen in the Sloanager archetype, which is a type of list that relies on Onagers, usually test beds, to be able to harass from a very, very safe distance, while Sloan kind of sits in complete safety, having squadrons completely rip the defense tokens away from people while they try to close the gap on you. And if they are able to finally get within shooting range of your Onagers, then they probably have their defense tokens stripped by then, probably have not much health left, and you probably have 10 hull and 5 shields in the front, and it's a very wide front as well too, not the easiest thing to get around. So yeah, the Onager's been a problem for a long time now. I think that the Star Destroyer is my preferred ship. I feel like it's slightly less oppressive. It still packs a big punch, but at more of a medium range. It focuses more on the red and blue dice, and not so much about the black. And it's just, I feel like, the higher point cost that the Onager class Star Destroyer always had kind of makes sense, and I like the upgrades on it better. I feel like it's more of the gentleman's Onager. whereas the test bed is more of the pain in the butt Onager. But with the points increase now, some people are thinking that maybe the Star Destroyer version was increased a little too much. But I think if you're going to increase the test bed, then you've got to also increase the Star Destroyer. I don't think you could make the test bed cost more than the Star Destroyer, because I do frankly think it's the better ship. It's got the better salvo. It's got extra dice. It's just got more dice overall. It's got the better flak, and it's got arguably the better upgrades. I don't always need a support team on the test bed, but I mean sometimes it's cool. I've tested playing with the test bed and trying to do like engine techs and do crazy repositioning with it. Not always the best, but I'm going to talk about what I think. Now, first off, like I did say earlier, I am glad that AMG is listening. I'm very glad that that they're taking feedback and that they're listening to players and play testers and whoever else is got their ear related to Star Wars Armada right now. It does seem like they are listening. Now, obviously, there are a lot of different voices, but a lot of the things that people were united on, they definitely listened. Now, we all didn't have the exact same point, the exact same solutions. I had some different solutions that I thought would have made Onagers a little bit less oppressive, but this is definitely one of the discussions, and it's a simpler one. It's just a point increase. If you do anything more complex, you risk breaking too many other things, because there's a lot of mechanics that are interlinked with other things. Like if you completely nerf ignition attacks, then you also can indirectly affect the Republic, because they have ignition attacks too. So you don't necessarily want to nerf one of the Clone Wars factions that that's not super strong, especially after they lost Anakin. So like there's definitely some problems there. Now, granted, I do still hope that the rules get amended to allow you to salvo an ignition attack if you're already within salvo range. I think that definitely needs to be something that happens. But for now, I think this is a good start. And it is a bit extreme of a points increase, but it's a good start. Now, I don't think that this completely fixes the Onagers, because I think that one of the big problems that the Onager class testbed is guilty of is being able to oppress somebody at long range on the first turn and to do a lot of harassment and sometimes completely kill a ship before it has a chance to activate, before your opponent has a chance to do anything. If I can take away a ship of yours before the game has even started, then that can be problematic. I'm not a big fan of that, and this change doesn't really stop that. It makes it a little more expensive to do it, but taking out a ship before it can activate is easily worth the extra 20 points. And so I don't think that it fixes the problem, but it takes steps towards fixing the problem. It takes some meaningful steps towards fixing the problem, and I appreciate that. And I do think at the end of the day, it's going to lead to seeing less Onagers, and it also, as somebody who doesn't like to play the strongest, most overpowered lists, I usually like to play more fringe or janky lists and see if I can make those into winning lists. I usually I'd like to shy away from flying Onagers a lot in the past, because they were seen as being so incredibly competitive and oppressive and just overall not fun for your opponent. I feel like now with the points increased, I feel less intimidated, or maybe not intimidated. I don't know if that's the best word, but I feel like it's more okay to run Onagers now, because they're so expensive. People are like, "Oh, you're still going to try that?" I think Onager lists still work, and I think by trying to run an Onager list, it's less it's going to be less oppressive than it was, because you'll have less points for everything else that might have made like the perfect machine before. Well, now you're going to be missing vital pieces to that perfect machine. And so I think you can still do a lot of the stuff that you wanted to do before, but it won't be as easy. And so I'm gonna run through some examples of that. But I also want to hear from you guys. I want to know some of your thoughts on the Onagers. Let me know down in the comments and also on Discord. Again, link for that in the video description below. Let's switch over real quick. Ryan Kingston's Fleet Builder has been getting some updates, so we have some of the new costs on these, and this is just kind of a sample of something that I've been working with. The idea of Sloane. I think you can still do it. It won't be necessarily the same, but here's just one example of how the points increase would take a really oppressive onager list and make it less oppressive, but still functional. Still functional. So in this list, I have 2 onagers. I've got the flagship with Cataclysm, and we do have a Hondo Ohnaka in the list. So we are going to be you're still going to be able to do the problem thing, which is that round 1 shot. We've got Admiral Sloan there. We've got Intel Officer. We've got Gunnery Chief Varnillion. We can swap Intel Officer and Governor Price. Really depends on how you want to do it. There's a couple of different ways that you can do that. You can have Price on there for the guaranteed accuracy to basically take out a flotilla on first turn, or you have Intel Officer to kind of, you know, to like take out a brace or something like that very early on. And so we have a couple of different options on how we want to do that. But and this will happen beyond first turn as well. So Gunnery Chief Varnillion, Orbital Bombardment, Particle Cannons, that's that long range ignition attack, and we've got Cataclysm there as well. So just really, really nasty stuff that we can make happen with this build. For our second onager, we have Governor Price, Veteran Gunners, and Orbital Bombardment Cannon there. The Veteran Gunners are going to give us some of that reroll control, and of course Governor Price also helps us do a little bit of that. We have Hondo Ohnaka on a Gozanti. Now, we do have Sloan in the list, so we are going to have some squadrons. And what you're going to see here is you're going to see 2 Gozantis. They are there to, for one, give me activations, give me some deployment, a little bit of deployment advantage, and, well, maybe not advantage, but at least make up for having a lot of points on these 2 onagers here. And also, they're going to activate some squadrons. So I'm going to be running Howlrunner and a bunch of TIE fighters. We don't have that many, though. There's only 6 squadrons in this case. Could have run a little bit more, but it didn't have enough to make it 8. So Howlrunner works pretty well with the TIE fighters. And, of course, she is also a scatter ace. And, you know, 6 squadrons means that Sloan isn't going to be unstoppable. 6 squadrons in this case means that if you want to run double onager, you know, you're either going to have to, like, granted, we could drop a Gozanti and run you know, quite a few more squadrons, but how are we going to activate them? Right? It's going to be kind of hard to activate that many squadrons. The onagers aren't going to be able to hit them, and plus they're only 1 squadron each. Now, what I could have done if I had the extra 40 points in this list is I could drop one of these Gozantis and upgrade it to a Quasar, and then all of a sudden I have a much better carrier that can do a lot of more nasty things. Or I could drop both Gozantis, have the Quasar, and in even more squadrons. There's a lot of different things that you can do, in being able to get fit that Quasar in there is a really big deal. It's a really big deal. So this is just one example of like those 40 points being, you know, added onto this list. Like if I had an extra 40 points and can do a lot more squadrons or better carriers, or you know, there's just a ton of different things that you can do. Now, if you wanted to run a Quasar and more squadrons and do more of a Sloan, then you'd have to do less onager. So you might have to swap out one of these onagers for, you know, and just run maybe a single onager. And then you have the Quasar and a couple more squadrons, and then you have a little more squadron support. But then you're all of a sudden you're like less oppressive because you've only got the single onager shooting if you're going to try something like that. So I think this is just a rough and tumble way of kind of taking a look at the impact of like trying to still run Sloan and an onager today. This is just something that I came up with quickly, but I'd love to hear some of your thoughts. I think there's still ways to make it work, but I feel like if I went up against this list, I would think to myself, I'm like, okay, well, you got the long range, but you have very little. Like these, obviously, if I'm going completely squadronless, then these TIE fighters are still going to do a lot of damage. But if I at least have a moderate screen, I don't think these TIE fighters are going to be much of a problem for me at all. You know, so I think I can make a legitimate charge at trying to take out you know, one or both of these onagers. You'll get some early hits on me, but I should be able to make it up in the late game. And I feel like a fleet like this is going to be, it might still be a challenge to go up against, especially if they can get some good shots early on. But if I can survive that, then I should have a chance of making it up. I have a very real chance of making it up in the late game, and it would be a lot harder to do if I had an extra 40 points of squadrons beaten down on me or something like that. So that's just that's kind of a thought on how you might still be able to use them. I feel like it puts them pretty close to where they should be. I think ultimately though I'd have rather seen some changes to basically how ignition attacks work. There's been a lot of really good suggestions, like maybe you can't expend accuracies on them. I think that's a great way to approach that. Again, you're shooting so far away, there's no way you can make it accurate, right? So maybe if you couldn't spend accuracies on ignition tokens, maybe if you can salvo ignition tokens or ignition attacks, at least if you're at at normal salvo range. Also, the idea of maybe just reducing what a long range, a medium range, and a short range ignition is. If you change that to distance 1s, 2, and 3, then you wouldn't be able to reach all the way across the board in the very first turn. That's something to think about. Or at least just changing Cataclysm to something that doesn't let you shoot on the very, very first turn. Because if you at least give somebody the chance to move out of the way, then at least you have maybe some options. I don't know. There's a lot of different things that could happen at some point. I think some are safer than others. I think at the bare minimum, I want to see people being able to salvo an ignition. At the bare minimum. We don't have Anakin anymore, or crazy Anakin. We don't have, Panic-kin. That joke. Ba-da-boom. No, we don't have Panikin anymore. So, yeah. So not. Oh gosh, that's such a bad joke. I think it calls for a minute. Oh yeah, baby. So all right, no more mini crab. All right, bad joke aside, let me know what your thoughts are on the onagers. Do you think they were increased too much? Do you think they need to be increased more? What more changes do you want to see to Star Wars Armada? Let me know down in the comments section below. I will talk to you guys later. Big thanks to my patrons. You guys are out of this world and help make this whole channel possible. So thank you so much for your continued support. May the Force be with you. Live long and prosper. Always wash your socks and cowabunga.